What's up, beautiful people? It's Hershey Sunday, and I'm back with the scoop after dark. Well, somewhat after dark. You're seeing a lot of light right now because it is daytime, and recording right now because I had a little snafu. But you know what we do, baby? We pivot, okay? And we record and we move forward. First, first, how are you? How are you? No, how are you really? I hope that you are doing well. We are at the beginning of a new month, okay? Cheers to that. We are moving forward. It's a lot going on, isn't it? Okay, a lot of big things happening beyond our control. But listen, all we can do is control what we can control and try to stay as positive, as healthy, as happy as we can, as helpful as we can. So wherever you are, whether you are going into work, whether you are caretaking, whether you are coming up with ideas to start a new business, okay? Just know that you are welcomed here. I'm happy to have you, and you are very much safe in this space. Before we get started, I want to give some love and some flowers to a couple that's very dear to me. They're dear friends of mine, more like family. I want to give a shout out to Nikki and Michi Mitchell, who celebrated their anniversary yesterday. We were able to get together amongst friends and celebrate them and have a funky good time. And I just wanted to take the time out in the show to say congratulations. You make Black love look beautiful. And I'm super proud of you and your beautiful family. And may you have many more. Speaking of the month of March, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a new month, and this month is Women's History Month. Okay. We are talking about women's legacy, their voices. And I wanted to use this month in particular to amplify those voices, um, to line women up, to give their take, to give their wisdom, um, their storytelling, and their experiences. So this month, I have a few guests scheduled. So you're going to see a little bit of a mix up, a little mix up, if you will, with the scoop for this month. But we're going to be showcasing women and their different stories and voices. And honey, we got some good ones. So I'm excited about that. Looking forward to it. So with this being Women's History Month, of course, I have to come with an unknown fact or a little known fact of women's history. And we're going to talk about Phyllis Wheatley, who was the first Black woman to publish a book in 1770. Quick snippet, it says here that Phyllis spent most of her life enslaved. Born in West Africa, she was brought to America by slave traders. At 14, Phyllis began to write poetry, and her poems were influenced not only by the poets of the time, but heavily by her African heritage and her faith. So shout out to Phyllis Wheatley, the first Black woman to publish a book. What brought me comfort for this week? Now, again, this is March, but I have to tell you, the very last day of February, I had the opportunity of going to the Ralph Affair. It was a event given by the Moores Brewing Company. Shout out to Moores Brewing Company. They are a Black-owned, okay, Black-owned brewing company here in Chicago. And it was such a dope event because was able to network and speak to like-minded people, share their experience, talk about how the Ralph Lauren look and effect has been a pillar in the community, especially in regards to hip hop, the Black community, how, we make everything a trend, honey. How we really elevated the brand. People came in their Ralph Lauren and their polos and their vintage this, that, and the third. And honey, they were all looking good. Okay. I have a video coming later this week to talk about it, to, share my experience. I had the opportunity to interview the co-owner of Moore's Brewing Company, Jamal Johnson. So thank you again for your time. And it was a fun event. They had it at the Soho House here in Chicago. That was my first time at Soho House in Chicago, and I enjoyed myself. So that did bring me comfort because I was able to speak to like-minded individuals, network, and meet some really dope folks. Um, what else? As I stated earlier, when I gave the shout out to Nikki and Michi, we all got together last night and enjoyed their anniversary. We had a good time. We did some karaoke, honey, baby, and it brought the house down. We were singing "Cut Close, I Like," and we brought the house down. I mean, naturally, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Harvey Girls, all right? Album coming soon. We had such a good time. And I will say for, um, the "What Brought Me Comfort" segment this week, baby, I was handling business, big business. I've been sending emails, moving and shaking and talking and getting my voice out there and just putting myself out there. And the reception has been really well received, and I appreciate that. And it's also a reminder to you gotta keep going. Sometimes you may have to pivot. That is okay, but keep going. It's necessary to get you where you really want to go and where you need to go. So those are the things that brought me comfort for the week. On tonight's reflection, being that this is Women's Month, Women's History Month, I wrote a few things down and I titled this or subtitled this "The Power of a Woman's Voice." Now, y'all know I'm a yapper, right? As you can tell by the podcast and my content, I talk. Okay. And I think that as a woman, the older I get, the more I realize the power of my voice and not just the power of speaking, but the different layers and context of it. So I want to talk about a woman's voice in softness. That's the first point. Softness is not submission, it's control. Okay. I wrote down a few things. A woman who speaks softly but clearly understands emotional intelligence, is a dangerous girl. Okay. Dangerous woman in the best way. She doesn't have to yell to be heard. She doesn't have to dominate the room. She knows the calm is disarming and that the calm makes people lean in. And there's a power in saying, I don't like that. I need more. That hurt me without screaming it. And isn't that the case too? I mean, I think depending on how you grew up, a lot of us yell when we're trying to make a point and to be listened to. If we feel that we're not being heard, we yell. I know I used to. Oh, I used to be a yeller. I used to, y'all, the temper was tempering. Okay. Environment of how I grew up, I thought that that was how you got your point across. And the older I got, I realized that one, I don't have to do a whole lot to be heard. People heard you the first time. Whether they choose to listen to it, to respect you enough to listen to it or not, two totally different things, and you cannot control that. That's a person's free will. And also, too, I'm too good for it. I'm too good to overly exert myself to get you to try to understand me on something that I'm speaking to you calmly about. I'm too good for it. If you don't want to listen, I'm not here to make you, but I'm definitely going to remove myself. My absence will be noted, and you'll feel it. Without me yelling and screaming. Because baby, who got time for that? I'm older now. Maybe back in my heyday. Back in my roaring 20s, honey, yes, honey, okay, queen of the jungle. I love a good old screaming match. But older her, she don't have that type of time nor that type of patience to be yelling and going back and forth. I wrote down that softness is when you're able to express yourself without abandoning yourself. Softness is harder than aggression. It's easy to snap. It's harder to stay measured, to respond instead of react. A soft voice says, I'm secure enough not to perform. And that's the strength of it all. That is a realization that a lot of us, women of a particular age, have come to realize like, I don't have to go back and forth with you. I don't have to yell. I don't have to scream. It's a power in that. It really is. My second point is a woman's voice and boundaries. And I think that this is when the shift happens because a woman's voice becomes even more powerful when it carries boundaries. It sounds like that doesn't work for me. I won't tolerate that. I'm not available for that energy. You're putting your foot down and you're drawing a line. Okay. You know what you will and will not tolerate. You won't be disrespected. And you don't have to explain. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of us who grew up people pleasers, okay, former people pleaser, you feel the need to explain why and why you feel this way and why you're stopping this and what you're doing. You don't have to do that. No is a complete sentence. And when a woman stops over explaining her no, she steps into her authority. A lot of us were taught to soften our boundaries so we wouldn't seem difficult. If you are a woman that has newly found your voice and you're used to, oh, you don't want to be difficult, you don't want to be labeled, you try to soften it. You try to, well, if that's okay with you, if that's all right. And I don't think it's anything wrong with being courteous. I don't think it's anything wrong with showing grace. I remember watching a special that Beyonce, you know how she does, like she produces her behind the scene movies or whatever. And I remember her saying that I can be fair. I can be fair. I'm paraphrasing, so don't, quote me, but it was something to the effect of like, I can be fair, I can be kind. I don't have to necessarily be nice, but I can be kind. And I think that that is the difference. I'm I feel like bending over backwards, and overextending can be the problem that a lot of us women have because we don't want to be labeled as a you know what, okay? We don't want to be seen as difficult. We don't want to be the woman that's raising all sorts of hell. But sometimes it's necessary. And it's a label. Truth be told, they're gonna talk about you anyway. I'm gonna be honest. There people that are hell bent on misunderstanding you and not receiving what you say well and not wanting to hear your point of view, they're gonna call you anything but a child of God anyway. You might as well set your boundaries. And your voice is allowed to protect you. And people who care enough about you as a person will respect it. And if they can't respect it, you don't need those people in your life. It's really that simple. I think Jill Scott said something similar, something to the effect, she's doing her press interviews for her new album. And she said something to the effect of like, she doesn't have a problem cutting people off, and her sword is hot. And baby, basically, she don't lose a wink of sleep over it. And I'm like, ooh, Jill, girl. You speaking. I think that people are, specifically women, we are so used to just putting up with stuff for the sake of putting up with it to not rock the boat. But honey, sometimes the thing got to get to knocking and rocking. That's just the way it's got to be. Also wrote down the third point, silence as strategy. It's not a weakness. It's data collection. You let a person talk long enough and they'll tell you exactly how they feel about you, what they think of you, what they're trying to do, what their intentions are. You just got to listen. And sometimes as women, it's hard for us to do. We always have, not always, but a lot of times we have a response to explain ourselves. This is how I'm feeling. This is me explaining. Sometimes you will get further with your silence because you can hear exactly what a person's intentions are. Watching how someone moves, watching what they reveal to you when you stop talking, it'll make all of the difference. It may save you a lot of time too. It does. It gives you the information that you need because it shows their true character. And people get very comfortable very quickly. If they feel that they have the floor, they want to just tell you everything. And sometimes that's what you need to hear. You need to hear exactly what they plan on doing with you and how they plan on moving with you as well. So it could be used as strategy. Silence can be graceful, it can be disciplined, it can be the difference between chaos and clarity. My last point of all of this, I wrote down that tone is everything. Now, I love good tones, okay? I have a book that I named Tones of Affection. Something about it just always gives me balance. It gives me, to me, it is femininity. It feels feels almost majestic. I feel like with different tones, it could set the scenery, imagery, all of that. I don't, I'm a good tone girl, honey. But you can say the same sentence two different ways and shift the entire atmosphere. That is a powerful thing. So that a woman who masters her tone understands that influence doesn't require volume. Her tone can be smooth, her tone can command, her tone can seduce, her tone can warm. Think about it like this. How many times have you seen that a woman's tone and how she spoke to a person can diffuse a situation from escalating any further? I have been I've been on both ends. I've seen it And I've been the one who was able to diffuse the situation just by speaking softly, just by calming the person down or the people down, just by my voice. Um, and I think that that's the power of being a woman. I mean, ain't it fun, y'all? Ladies, am I right? I think it's a good thing. I think that it is one of our superpowers. We really can set the tone of the mood and the atmosphere. I really think that that's dope. And I think when a woman is aware of her tone, she doesn't shrink, she can lean into it, and it's incredibly powerful. I remember a woman on TV saying something to the effect of this about tact, right? She said, tact is the ability to tell someone to go to hell so eloquently that they look forward to the trip. And I have never forgotten that. It really does matter how you say things, the tone of it all, and how you present things, right? So I never forgot about that. I feel like we are really in control, and sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that. So tonight, I want you to think about your voice. Okay, where have you silenced yourself? Where have you softened too much? Where do you need to stand firmer? Where can you allow yourself to be gentle without feeling weak? I want you to think about those things. And also remember that a woman's voice doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes it's the pause, sometimes it's the boundary, and sometimes it's the no that changes the room. So boom. Now we are Tootsie rolling on over to our Ask Hershey question, and I got this a few weeks ago, but I'm getting around to some of the questions. So if you sent in a question, okay, don't forget you can send in your question to thescoophs@gmail.com with the hashtag Ask Hershey, and I will answer the question anonymously over the podcast. And, if I didn't quite get to your question, don't worry, it's coming. Okay. I plan on answering as many as I can. And if you are still waiting, go ahead and send me a reminder. That's okay too. I'm human. I'm being honest. Okay. But the question we have for today is it wrong to outgrow a man you once prayed for? Let me take a sip of water on that actually. Is it wrong to outgrow a man you once prayed for? Okay. Straight answer is no. It's not wrong. I feel that it's human to outgrow in a situation that doesn't serve you any further. And I think it's human to grow, period. I mean, you're not going to be the man that you wanted when you was 22 years old. Say he was 22 or 25 himself. That 22-year-old young woman is not going to be the same as you at 42 years old. You know what I'm saying? You've grown. Now, if he stays the same, if he is still the same 20-something-year-old man, and y'all both done grew up in your 40s, but mentally he's still in his 20s, you're gonna outgrow him. And I think saying, "Is it wrong to outgrow?" is kinda in the same sense of saying that, "Should you stifle yourself because this person is not growing with me?" How can you stop yourself from growing? You're gaining more knowledge, right? You are experiencing different things. Experience teaches you things. You're going to learn, you're going to expound, you're going to be curious, you're going to try stuff. So you don't have a choice but to grow. I think the better question is it wrong to not communicate that there's a difference in growth, that you have grown to the man that you once prayed for? I think that that is a better question, and that is the issue. Have you communicated that? And although it should be common sense because this person is with you every day, assumingly, sometimes people need to sit down and to talk about, "This is where I am. This is where I feel you are, and this is the disconnect, and I need for us to get back realigned." You know what I'm saying? But to answer your question, no, it's not wrong to outgrow. You're gonna outgrow yourself. Again, you're not the same person. I'm not the same person I was at what I'll be, I ain't gonna tell my age right now. My birthday is this month too, funny enough. But I'm not the same person in my late 30s as I was, in my late 20s. I'm not. I'm totally different. Some things are the same, but a lot has changed because of experience. You can't control that. So, in short, I think it's The answer is no, it's not wrong for that. But I think communication, like with everything else, is important because a person needs to know where they stand and they need to know if there are needs of improvement. I think you need to give a person a fair shot, a fair chance to improve. I think that that's fair. And that's with any situation that you're dealing with intimately. You need to let a person know what's going on with you and how you've changed because that's how a lot of people end up, ending a relationship or having some extracurricular activities if you are catching my drift because someone else then took your attention away because they're matching your growth. They're with you, in 4K right now on where you are, and your partner is behind. But at least give your partner the opportunity to rise to the occasion. Does that make sense? I hope so. Well, Scoops, now I have a question to ask you. Who's the woman or who are the women in your life that's changed you for the good? Okay. Asterisk sign on that for the good. And have you given her or them their flowers? And if not, what's stopping you? It is never too late to give the woman that has changed you for the better, who's inspired you, who motivated you, to give her flowers or them their flowers. So if you have not, think about it and do so. Alrighty, Scoops. Now we are coming to the end of our show. And of course, we're ending it with a bedtime story. Buckle up, Buttercup. Okay, get your drink, get your little snacky snack, snuggle up. It's time for a bedtime story. And this one is titled The One Who Speaks. There once was a woman who understood the weight of her voice, not just the sound of it, but the power of it. She learned early that her tone could steady a room, that when she spoke gently, people leaned in, and when she spoke firmly, the walls adjusted. She wasn't the loudest woman in the room. She was the one people listened to. Her voice had seasons. Sometimes it was warm, like honey sliding into tea. It wrapped around the people she loved. It reassured. It comforted. It said, "You're safe here." Other times, it was sharp, not cruel, but precise, like a blade cutting away confusion. She didn't raise it often. She didn't need to. Because the power of her voice was never in volume, it was in intention. She learned that silence was not weakness. Silence was observation. Silence was gathering. Silence was the inhale before truth. And when she did speak, it mattered. Her voice calmed storms in her household. It soothed children. It encouraged friends. It uplifted other women who had forgotten their strength. But it could also raise thunder. When something crossed her boundaries, her voice shifted. It no longer asked for permission. It declared, "I deserve, I require, I will not accept less." And the world adjusted. She learned that her voice was not just for soothing others. It was for advocating for herself. It was for asking the question no one wanted to ask. It was for saying, "I want more." And perhaps the most powerful things she discovered was that her voice didn't only live in her mouth, it lived in her walk, in her choices, in her standards, in her refusal to shrink. She realized that every time she chose herself, she was speaking, even in silence. And as she grew older, wiser, softer, stronger, she understood. Her voice was not a weapon, it was an instrument. It could harmonize, it could disrupt, it could create, it could rebuild. And when she finally embraced it, fully, unapologetically, the world did not tremble. It listened. Because a woman who knows the power of her voice is a woman who cannot be erased. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you spending it with me. And if you haven't already, go ahead and switch on over to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to like, share, and follow and subscribe to the Scoop with Hershey Sunday After Dark. I would really appreciate it and would love your support. And if you have a question, don't forget you can email me at thescoophs@gmail.com with the hashtag AskHershey. Just know, wherever you are, be gentle with your heart. And I'll talk to you soon after dark. Peace.